nation's tribute to a much-loved monarch. The country comes together to say thank you for 60 years of service. 1,000 boats took to the Thames, a sight not seen in the capital of 350 years. Anyone is watching is unlikely to see again in their lifetime. With more than 1 million people lining the riverbanks to witness the occasion, many more watching on television, what was a truly national moment. Keep dry and carry on seemed the motto of the day, but even a typically British summer couldn't dampen people's spirits. And it wasn't just about the weather or London, with 9,000 street parties across the country, reflecting on a full historic day. And a first look too at how tomorrow's papers have been covering the Jubilee celebrations, with our press preview coming up at 10:30.
This is Sky News with Mark Longhurst.
Good evening. 3 generations of royals, 1,000 boats and 1 million well-wishers came together in the capital today for one purpose: to pay tribute to the woman who's reigned over them for the past 60 years. The Queen led the celebrations for her Jubilee pageant, and despite the typically British weather, it was every bit as spectacular as was hoped. Across the country, millions more joined in. 9,000 street parties defied the drizzle to mark the occasion. We'll have all those stories over the next half hour, but first, Robert Nisbet reports on the Jubilee pageant.
Trumpeting another landmark moment in the flow of British history. The Queen arrived at Chelsea Pier with the Duke of Edinburgh. The monarch accompanied to the royal launch by her son, the Prince of Wales, and the Duchess of Cornwall. As hundreds of boats began mustering upriver, the Queen made her way to the elaborately decked Spirit of Chartwell, the royal barge. The Prince Elizabeth steam train blew her horn from the Chelsea River Bridge as she went. Already on board the barge, her grandsons and the Duchess of Cambridge waiting in the light drizzle. The vibrant gold and red of the velvet drapes and gilt-covered statues cutting through the June gloom. Once aboard, the man-powered vessels prepared to take up their position at the head of the flotilla. At 2:40, the wheels on the floating belfry began to spin. The bells marking the start of the pageant. On cue, the boats rowed past the Queen. At their head, many other members of the royal family on board the Gloriana. They received a wave of royal assent. The 265 man-powered boats heading the £10 million event had been told to keep their speed to 4 knots. As they kept that pace, the Spirit of Chartwell slipped its moorings and joined the procession. Cheers from the thousands watching on the riverbank. As the flotilla took shape, moving down the 7-mile route under 14 road, foot and rail bridges, its historical inspiration became clear. Organisers studied this painting by Canaletto, marking Lord Mayor's Day in 1746. The visual echo is staggering. Henry VIII and Charles II all used the Thames for their own celebrations. There was a musical reminder too. As one of 10 floating music barges played Handel's water music, commissioned in 1717 by George I. Everywhere, though, reflections of the Queen's 6 decades on the throne. Countries and the Commonwealth also represented, while others went for less traditional boat decorations. The chilly day drew comment on board the Chartwell. As it passed the South Bank Cultural Centre, the home of the National Theatre, where there was a carefully coordinated salute. The puppet star of the Warhorse rearing over the Thames, obviously enjoyed by the royal viewing party. Then the Queen passed an enormous reminder of another milestone, a black and white photograph from the Silver Jubilee in 1977. As the barge approached the finishing line, a trumpet salute. Then the bascules of Tower Bridge were raised as the rain fell. She may have been under cover, but the Queen wasn't immune from the weather. The spirit of Chartwell moored as the royal party moved to watch the rest of the flotilla pass. If the drizzle and pageantry wasn't British enough, the musicians added to the pomp and circumstance. As the music played on, the Queen was evidently delighted. A flypast was cancelled, but the choir led those gathered around Tower Bridge in a rendition of the national anthem, a traditional end to a day soaked in rain and symbolism. Nisbet, Sky News.
Let's get more now with Adam Bolton at West India Docks in East London, where many of the boats from the flotilla are moored overnight. It's been a long, arduous day for them, but time for celebration now, Adam?
Yeah, I think some are finding time to celebrate, as we'll find out in a minute. But has to be said, some of the boats are only just still coming through here to moor up for the night. And then, of course, they've got their journeys back to their home berths later on tomorrow. And some of them are telling me it takes 3 days to get back home. Joining us now are the crews, I suppose you could put it that way, of two boats. First of all, tell us a little about your boat, sir.
Niula, wonderful Dunkirk little ship, absolutely fantastic. Cruised in this afternoon. I think you'll find they're all in now. I think we're all tucked up for the evening and we're all having our meals on board and drinks and over to Fiona.
And what was your highlight of the day?
Well, there was lots of people there and they were all cheering and waving, and we couldn't really see the Queen very well because...
Did you get to see the Queen or not?
Not very well.
But not clearly. It was an amazing day, though. The crowds along the banks were absolutely fantastic. They stood out in the cold and cheered us all the way through. It was wonderful. Brilliant day.
Did you get
amazing.
wet?
We got wet.
We got wet at the end.
We're still getting wet.
Yes, we got very wet at the end, but it was worth it. The whole day was worth it.
And then behind us here is the Gainsborough Trader, which is a hull keel barge, I understand. Still working, although it was made in the 1930s. How was your day?
Well, I think we're all very lucky to be here on a very special occasion. We're not going to see this again in our lifetime, so yeah, absolutely excellent, fantastic.
He's only a young lad.
Yes?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, the old barge was the last one off the mole, off of Dunkirk, so 143 soldiers home to Ramsgate.
And you've
really done it properly, not a make-believe one.
And you know, you've had the Dunkirk lot, and you've had the longboats and the barges and all the rest of it. Is this all about well, people who like boats, really, or is it about the whole country?
It's about the whole country, isn't it? I mean, the Queen has been an ambassador around the world for the country, so it's nice to have all the boats from around the world appear here today, particularly with the Association of Dunkirk Little Ship Service. Us chaps are members of it, our craft, i.e. then what took the soldiers off the beach. And so it has a big meaning to us chaps.
And you're all going to celebrate into the night?
Oh, yeah. Do it for you now.
All right. Okay, well, we'll leave you to it. Thank you very much indeed. As you can see, a happy day here down at the London docks.
Adam and your very British crew, thank you very much indeed. Well, indeed, more than 1 million people descended on London from all over the country and indeed the world to be part of the once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. Sky's Michelle Clifford spent the day among the crowds who, in typically British fashion, refused to let the cold and the drizzle put them off.
The wait was over, the push was on to bag a pole position for the pageant. They might have been the lucky ones with tickets in their hands, but given the numbers, riverside space was at a premium. Many had queued for hours in conditions which told of a very British occasion.
Everywhere she goes, we try and follow. Even if it was snowing, I'd still come.
Is it raining? Oh, yes, it is a bit. Yes, bonkers, yes. Well, I'll never see it again in my lifetime.
Certifiable.
Nor will she.
The planning, the preps, the anticipation had lasted months, and not just for those tasked with pulling off this extraordinary celebration, but for families like the Lathams. There's grandma, granddad, daughter, husband and the kids, all down from Cheshire for what they reckon will be a moment for the family album.
It's once in a lifetime, isn't it? I think this year's a kind of a huge sort of celebration of being English, and although the girls are quite young, I think they will remember bits of it.
It's good fun, and yeah, we want to come to London to see the Queen.
The coronation. We sat at home and watched a 9-inch box. It's good for the children to see and understand what's the heritage and everything behind it.
From Birmingham to Barcelona, Cardiff to California, they flocked to London, not in their thousands, but their hundreds of thousands. It was to be a day when national pride took on an international flavour.
I remember when Queen Elizabeth was crowned, June 2nd of 1953. That's very vivid in my memory, and so we wanted to be here to celebrate this monumental event.
It's just something that I guess fascinates us to see some other country that really we're related to very well, and to have that experience.
build-up to the main event didn't disappoint. The grandparents got to relive their history. The grandkids got a lesson in history. It was a day when different communities came together, and many hoped the sentiment would last.
I just hope it stays. I hope it's not just for this week and that, because it would be nice to think that it would stay for a bit longer, yes. Yeah, even on the train coming down, people were talking to each other, and so it's nice, yeah.
A sea of people had to navigate their way around road closures and security checks. It was a police operation which surpassed even the royal wedding, with 6,000 officers deployed. Nothing was going to be allowed to interrupt the Queen's big moment. By the time it came, the crowds were in places 10, 12 deep. Many wouldn't even manage a glimpse of the passing flotilla, but few seemed to mind. It was all about the atmosphere.
Maybe the nation just needed a boost. People fancied a party. Maybe this turnout proves affection for the monarch and the monarchy hasn't waned. Whatever the truth, the British public didn't disappoint the Queen, and the Queen's party certainly didn't disappoint the public.
As I expected, lots of people, lots of fun. Great. It's just great to see the crowds out. She's done an incredible job. She's been our Queen for 60 years, and I don't think we realise how much she is just absolutely loved. And I think it's a great tribute to her.
It's just been amazing seeing the princess and the queens. I loved it, yeah. Fantastic.
The weather didn't oblige, but it was in keeping with a day that told of so much that was quintessentially British. There was plenty of history and heritage, more than enough eccentricity to go around, and probably a rather predictable nationwide headache in the morning. Michelle Clifford, Sky News, London.
And it wasn't just about the Thames Pageant today. The whole of the country got involved with more than 9,500 street parties across the UK. The weather meant a few of the outdoor events were quickly turned into indoor celebrations, and one in particular more than lived up to its billing as a royal celebration, as Sky's Katie Stallard now reports.
Around trestle tables and under hastily erected canvas, up and down the country, hopeful eyes turned heavenward, willing the rain to stop. But in the end, it didn't matter, because today was a day when no one was too grand to pull up a seat at one's local party. Having brought, of course, a special Jubilee cake and offer a toast to the Queen. Even if they weren't expecting a second verse. But this was a British bank holiday weekend. It was only ever going to be wet. In this cul-de-sac in Coventry, they huddled in gazebos, held on to umbrella hats. But this was about a community braving the elements together. The great British triumph over adversity.
12 months ago, hardly anybody knew anybody here. It was just, you just sort of waved to your neighbour, that was it. And the community spirit, they've all come together. Everybody helps each other out. And we've set up a neighbourhood watch as well on the back of it all.
In the British base at Camp Bastion, the brass band of the Royal Engineers. The mess hall decked out with bunting for a celebration lunch. And out at forward operating base Shawcut, a sack race in the sand, a unique salute from Her Majesty's finest from those on active service overseas. Back in soggy Blighty and in Downing Street, they'd had to move the party inside, perhaps to stop those pasties getting cold, although they did get out for a quick game of catch in the afternoon.
Well, that's the British summertime for you, but we had a great street party, but inside Downing Street rather than outside. We had elderly people, we had scouts, we had girl guides, brownies, people who'd been organising the big lunch. So I think the oldest was 96, the youngest was probably 4 or 5. So it was a great big society occasion and a real pleasure to be able to host this.
Oh, save the Queen!
Piccadilly in central London, one of the capital's busiest streets, closed to traffic for the first time since the coronation, given over to a giant street party.
Over the last 60 years, prime ministers and fashions have come and gone, but the Queen has remained a constant. So yes, it's raining, yes, it's pretty cold, but today was a day about getting out and celebrating the Diamond Jubilee.
Such a rainy day.
say those words and...
They had each donated £1 to the Queen's Jubilee charity for a seat at the table for lunch. Some of whom looked rather familiar.
Oh, it's amazing. It's a once-in-a-lifetime occasion that I think everyone can be united and celebrate the Queen. And I know she's a great British icon, but I think we take her for granted quite a lot. So it's a perfect time to really have a good old knees up and have great fun.
In Hawthorne Street in Liverpool, they know how to party. This was the Silver Jubilee in 1977. 25 years on, they're doing it all again, only this time with tents. Dee Clark organised the last party back then. She's keen to hand the duty on now to the younger generation.
As for the children, I think they're all enjoying it as they did in 77. Yeah, they are. And I say it's a new generation and they're enjoying it.
So for all of the elements the great British weather could throw, in the end it was almost fitting. This was a day to remember where you were, for future generations to tell grandchildren about. History will record this as a day that people came out and partied. The rain will be just a footnote. Katie Stallard, Sky News.
And there's more to come. Let's remind you of something taking place tomorrow night. You can see live here on Sky News, with thousands of Jubilee beacons being lit across the country. The Queen lighting the national beacon outside Buckingham Palace. We'll have full live coverage on 9 o'clock live here on Sky News.